Hello and good morning. Well, no need to tell you what happened yesterday, is there? The whole world saw the unbelievable pictures of the destruction caused by the terrorist attacks on American cities. How will the Americans feel this morning? How will they be coping? What will they do next? And does that make us all vulnerable? Andrew, you're still trying to make contact with some of your colleagues who work in the World Trade Center. Have you had any success yet at all?
We've had limited success with that. Obviously, I'm a little bit nervous by this. It's been a very, very, very emotional 24 hours, or even less than that right now.
What did you feel when you first saw the towers on fire?
I think the first concept of it at the office, we were watching it on a television set, was somewhat denial that this could happen.
It looked unreal.
It was
looked like a bad B movie, didn't it?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. You know, as someone who's lived in Boston, who's lived in Washington D.C., whose offices are in New York, and we haven't been able to confirm the location of all of our colleagues in New York. It's just been a roller coaster.
What do you think has happened? Are you really worried? Presumably you are.
Extraordinarily worried. There are some positive stories. There was a colleague of mine who was able to confirm late last night that one of our colleagues who regularly takes that flight from Boston was fortunately ill yesterday and never got on the flight.
But he takes that flight every Tuesday from Boston and didn't take it yesterday.
Didn't take it yesterday.
Elvis?
I feel the same way, but actually I'm still trying to call my mother and my parents and all that, and I haven't gotten through to anybody. Yesterday, when I saw it actually on the news, I couldn't believe myself because it seemed to me like it was just a movie, and to this day I still can't picture it. It's very difficult to actually picture something like that, especially after seeing certain movies like Independence Day, where buildings are being bombed and attacked and all that. And for me to see that, in order for me to actually feel that, I need to go there myself and see it for myself, and to actually see those people calling outside out of the window, with white flags and all for help, and for that building to get demolished.
What you say you haven't?
I'm still nervous at this moment just saying it.
And you say where's your mom?
She's in New York City.
And you haven't been able to contact her?
No. All my friends are uncles. My uncles actually work.
Would she have been anywhere near the?
No, but I mean she travels a lot, so I don't know. That's the thing. I don't know where she's at.
So what are you feeling this morning?
Destroyed. I can't believe it. There's no words of putting it to us. I mean, if you're a New Yorker, there's no ways of putting it. If you've been there, I was there last month to tell the kids that I work with here in England, saying to them, look, I'm going to show you New York City, and showing the World Trade Center. That's the first thing I show them on the video.
It's like a small town somehow, even though it's so congested that people go everywhere. I mean, I lived in New York for 13 years, and I have tons of friends that live in lower New York where this would have impacted. A friend who lives right near the World Trade Center. So it's just it's not like a specific thing. I just know that
it's impossible to actually think that two buildings so big like that happening.
People.
It's just like the movies.
But you say your friends. You've been trying to contact your friends.
I haven't gotten through. And
why haven't you gotten through? Because the phones are down, or because
phones are down.
Part of the problem, presumably, is the whole place has come as ground to a halt.
That's right, and I'm sure it's affected all lines and systems.
So it's not that something's happened to your friends or indeed to your mom. It's just that the communications.
They're probably trying to call us now. In New York, we have a saying: it's hard for New Yorkers to believe anything, but that just destroyed this saying. It's hard to imagine this can happen.
You can imagine anything now. After something
after
like that, what's
it.
Next?
Destroys everything.
Are you
Nothing's
trying to contact
impossible
relatives?
now. Yeah, I'm trying to get in touch with my mom.
Where's mom?
Mom's in Washington, D.C.
So, would she have been anywhere near the Pentagon?
But you never know. My mom's a teacher. She could have taken a field trip. She could have done something. I don't know.
But why can't you get through?
Because you're busy every time you try.
So the whole lines are busy.
I tried to call my
Everybody's calling home.
My friend's father works at the Pentagon, lives in Arlington. It took me an hour and a half on redial to get through.
Yeah, there isn't a phone line to be had to the States. I have friends in the State Department, in the Pentagon, in the Trade Center. I was on redialing every 5 minutes yesterday, trying to get through, and everybody who was there, we got a busy signal.
This must be even worse to see those pictures here. You've seen them on British television.
This is amazing. Here we all are. We're 3,500 miles away from this, but we were sitting there watching this live on television. The whole thing was brought right there to us, and you're watching it. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. My brain simply didn't want to understand
It's impossible to actually think something like this.
this apocalypse that we were looking at, and we're so far away from it.
That
I
must
can't
but
imagine.
apart from the anxiety that you must have about Andrew, about his colleagues in the World Trade Center, Elvis about his mom who lives in New York, you're naturally worried about them, but also it must be really frustrating that you can't make any kind of contact.
You feel helpless. You feel there's nothing you can do, and you're reaching for something and you're swatting at air. There's nothing to grab onto.
And you just want to know the answer, don't
Christina?
you? You just want to get through and know the answer. I mean, watching
Have you
some
been
of these...
trying to get through?
Well, yes, because my father's from Boston, and I've flown in and out of Logan Airport, where it all kicked off 1,000 times. And that's one of the things that I was thinking about is how vulnerable you are. You could, you know, my family and friends could have been on that plane, and I mean, I could have been on that plane, and it really brings the whole thing home.
I know. Sorry, I'm trying to hold it together. I almost made reservation into New York.
You were flying from...
From LAX, I'm sorry.
When were you flying? It's all right, take your time.
Yesterday.
You were flying here.
I was trying to hold it together.
Well, you're going to hold it together. Of course you are. Because you've got to hold it together.
Yeah.
Come on. You are, see, there's the Americans. They're saying, come on, hold it together. Listen, but while you're getting yourself together, I'll just fill in a little 2 seconds and tell us what happened. You were actually on you've just arrived here. You arrived at Heathrow, and you'd flown from LA, right?
My cousin had just dropped me off, you know, wished me well. Everybody was praying for a safe journey. And there was some indication that this devastation had happened before we left. Got on the plane. There's news, but there was nothing on the news, so I don't know if it was old news. And then, you know, we took the flight. I kind of tried to catch up on sleep, got there to customs, waited in line, nothing in customs. I was just like, you know, talking to another American lady, and we got through customs. Then just came straight to the...
This is in Heathrow?
Yeah, you know, just came straight to the hostel, nothing, you know, I'm just starting my trip.
When did you first hear?
I woke to a nap. I took a nap, and I woke up. Oh, I got to call my family, let them know I'm here. Didn't have my calling card, so I had this company card that ran out because of the surcharges. In the middle of my dad saying, "You're there. Oh, your mom is happy. Did you hear about what happened?" I said, "Oh, you mean like the bombing? Oh, you mean like in Israel?" He goes, "No, Milka, the Twin Towers. It's Twin Towers, New York." I said, "What?" 3 times he had to digest, and as soon as
But all more relevant to you and to them, why he said, "Oh, you're there and you're safe," is because the plane's being hijacked.
Exactly.
And you could have been all day. We were being told there's another plane hijacked. There's a plane, a 4th plane on its way.
My mom was just.
And they're thinking what airline did you fly?
I've flown Virgin. I flew Virgin, and I actually could have flown one of the other airlines, but I flew Virgin.
Gary?
Yeah, I mean, actually, I feel very lucky because I'm here in London on holiday, and I was walking around Piccadilly Circus for a long time. I walked into a pub to see if we could get something to eat, and the barman said that the restaurant was closed, and he asked me if I had heard what happened. I said, you know, no, I don't know why your restaurant's closed. And he said, no, about the bombing in New York. So he told me to go next door where they had a TV, and I just sat there totally aghast for an hour or so with my mouth hanging open. You know, it was just very shocking. And you kind of get these mixed feelings of first you just can't believe it, but then you get flashes of anger and desire for revenge. How could somebody possibly do this? And it was horrible.
Disgust you.
Is
this what's going through anger? What's the predominant?
Your stomach just drops, and you just feel me just angry because I'm really proud of the United States, and I felt defeated. I felt like somebody messed with me. Because they messed with my country, And
it got worse because on the news they were focusing on New York and on the Pentagon, and I'm from Pittsburgh, and they just sort of flashed on the bottom of the screen that a plane went down in Pittsburgh, and I immediately asked the barman where a phone was at, went down into the basement. The phone was out of order, so I had to go running across the street and find a phone booth, and it took an hour and a half to 2 hours to finally get through. So I'm actually lucky that I got through and talked to my mother.
Presumably you're identifying with all those Americans there.
I mean, not only my family,
it makes it difficult for us because we're actually here. So we're so far.
Do you feel guilty?
I feel guilty, I'm very guilty. In fact, I wish I was actually with my mom at the moment.
You want to be in New York helping out?
I want to be a comfort, but I also think that I was on an airplane flying back to the United States just a half an hour after it happened, and something went funny as we were taxiing, and the pilot came in and just told us flat out, and I laughed. I was like, no,
This is in England?
In England,
You were
yeah.
supposed to be flying back yesterday.
Back, yes. back
Mikola
to
was
the-
coming in from the
Right,
States
right.
at Heathrow. You were flying out, and you got
Exactly.
halfway down the runway and were sent back.
Yeah, the pilot said, you know, 2 planes have crashed into the World Trade Center, and we may have to delay the flight a little bit. And I was like, okay, that's impossible. That's just impossible. You know, I know those buildings. I've walked around them. They're massive. They're beyond, you know, you know, you worry about earthquake or something in the United States, but never.
It's like an earthquake, Ian. The kind of catastrophe. It's not just the buildings. No one knows the number of people who will eventually have been killed or maimed or injured. You presumably can identify with what has happened to a certain extent. Nobody can totally, because we've never had this kind of apocalypse, I suppose. But you can identify as a doctor treating bomb blast victims and all the rest of it.
Well, unfortunately, I have. I mean, I've had that experience. I've been involved in 4 major incidents now. When I was a very junior doctor, the Hyde Park bombing when I was at St Stephen's, and I'm a consultant at Barts in London, and so I was involved in the Bishopsgate bombing and in the recent Canary Wharf bombing, and also in the Cannon Street rail crash. So, you know, I've been there at the heart of it. I mean, if I take you through it, there are so many different tragedies in this story that will unfold over many years to come, and no doubt you'll cover that in the rest of the programme, talking about the future. But, I mean, if I take you through what happens, as soon as if I go back to the Canary Wharf bombing, I was actually off duty, I was driving home, I didn't hear the bomb blast, although I was driving from the London hospital a few miles away, 2-3 miles away. My family in Hampstead heard the bomb blast, but I had the BBC News on as I was driving home. And I drove home, and I was rung at home, and I came straight back into the hospital. And loads of doctors and nurses, as soon as they heard the bomb blast, the off-duty doctors and nurses came into the hospital.
Presumably they were doing that in New York too. And,
Absolutely.
I'm sure. You think
Absolutely,
they'd all
exactly the
drop
same
whatever
thing.
they're doing and
Yep,
just
exactly.
go straight to...
And then what happens is that we say, right, we've got to sort out. It's like a war zone. We have to sort out, and we have to organise so that we can deal with the problem. So we need people on site so that they can say, this person's dead, this person's nearly dead, this person could be saved and could be taken back and is seriously injured, and we want to get them back straight away.
So you're having to make those kind of really ruthless decisions.
We're sending out people to the site to make those decisions. Nurses, doctors, our top nurses and doctors making those decisions, because we want experienced people on the site. Those are the very people who would have been killed when the building fell down. Yeah. So immediately you've lost a whole tranche of expert fire people, ambulance people,
I heard that
doctors
300
and nurses.
fire people have been killed in New York.
You will have lost the cream of the emergency services.
The bravest people
doctors
who are
and nurses who are there, who are making decisions. And I mean, I've been to the World Trade Center, as I'm sure all people have here. And when you're at the bottom, you can't see the top. So they would have had no inkling that the building was about to collapse on them. So that's the first tragedy that I see.
Then the injuries are of an order and of a kind that you don't presumably experience anywhere else. Bomb blast and
no. I mean, you'll see. What happens is that the immediate people that come in are usually the walking wounded, who will be from some distance away from the injury, and they'll have been hit because they've been wearing clothes. They will have been hit by, I mean, you've seen the pictures with blood coming down their face. They'll have been hit by flying glass, flying fragments coming down from the building, and they'll have relatively minor injuries, but they'll be scarred for life as a result, both physically and probably emotionally as well. And they'll come in first of all, and then we'll start to get, normally, but I mean, this is a totally abnormal situation, we'll start to get the very seriously injured people in who may have broken limbs, who may have had to have amputations at the scene. But who's doing the amputations at the scene now so that they can save people? Because all those people who are going to do it are now dead.
Or a lot of them are dead.
We assume so.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got very little information coming through.
Doctors and nurses are human too.
Absolutely.
Presumably, however much you've dealt with operations and seen blood, seeing people vulnerable, it might be children, it might be pregnant women, all kinds of people with horrific injuries, Are you able to kind of keep a distance from that, to keep your emotions under control?
We have to. We have to. We have to struggle to do that. You've
Do you live
made
with
the
it long
point.
term?
Pardon?
Sorry. Go on, sorry.
Yeah. I mean, what will happen in the hospital, and I haven't been out to the scene of these incidents, I've always been in the hospital, and what happens in the hospital is that you stand there terrified because the patients are, we don't get the first patients maybe for half an hour, something like that, and so we're standing there for half an hour not knowing what's coming in through the door. And then we start to see the patients come in, and the patients are initially the minor injuries, but then we'll start to get the major injuries, and they will be horrific because you'll have people who will have, I mean, it isn't, on the movies what you see is you see blood, but you don't see blood in these injuries. What you see is you see a mixture of blood, concrete, oil, stains, you know, black legs covered in oil, smelly of kerosene from the airline,
Does this
covered
live with
in
you
dust.
for very long afterwards?
Blood, pardon?
Does this live with you for long afterwards?
Well, I'm here, how long is it since the Canary Wharf bombing? I mean, 4 or 5 years? Yes, of course, these events live in your memory, and you remember individual cases that came in. Canary Wharf, the difference between what we've experienced here and what we've experienced there is that Bishopsgate occurred late at night. And so although it was in the heart of the City of London, the damage was to property, and there weren't very many people injured. Canary Wharf occurred at 6 o'clock in the evening when people had left the offices, and so there weren't so many people injured. 3 people died, 70 people were injured.
And can you identify with the Americans, what they're going through this morning, those of them who still can't make contact with their relatives, friends?
Well, to me, there's no justification for this type of terrorism. I don't know where it is coming from. But we've got to take stock here.
Well, you have experience of this,
I've
haven't you?
had experience. My son was in a blast in Hyde Park when the band
When the
exploded.
IRA blew up the band.
Yeah. So,
And he was injured.
And he was injured.
What kind of injuries did he sustain?
Pardon, but he was fortunate. He was teaching at London University at that time. He was sitting on the grass. But he had a facial and other injuries. But the thing
What did you feel when you first heard he was involved?
Well, it was my birthday, actually, and flowers arrived on that particular day. And I always rang my son up in the evening to thank him and his wife. And before I could ring up, it was Debbie on the phone telling me that my son was in hospital.
What did you feel? Can you still remember?
I felt numb. I felt very, very numb.
Oh, yeah, that's...
Because he was doing research on cancer at the time to save his life. And I think that brought it home to me. A gentle, kind-hearted person.
As will be a lot of the people in New York and in Washington.
I mean, just innocent people.
Just like the people on the airplanes.
Yes, exactly.
Actually, I live in Ealing, and as you all know, we had this bomb going off only a few weeks ago, and the impact on the local community is tremendous. You know, it's frightening, it's worrying, it's affect the business. I mean, I run an off-license for Unwins, and for 2 or 3 days afterwards, the business were affected.
People won't come.
Absolutely, yeah.
Even though the bomb has gone and it's unlikely that lightning will strike twice, people are deterred from coming into that area. And that didn't have any injuries, did it, the Ealing bomb? There were no fatalities.
No fatalities, but there were injuries.
So what do you imagine this is going to do to...
Well, exactly. I mean, as you said earlier on, I mean, our pension funds, they are in all over the world.
Are you worried about the economic impact?
Absolutely. This might be just what...
Can you identify?
For me, it's worrying because to feel that fear actually on your own streets. I was actually at Canary Wharf yesterday, and you're just trying to take stock of what's happened in New York, and you're hearing the news, and you're trying to take that down you. And then 2 hours later came the call that the wharf's got to be evacuated, and suddenly it's come a bit closer to you, and the whole of the wharf was just streaming out, people coming out of their offices, and I just,
Was there panic?
It wasn't so much panic, but there was a definite need. Everybody just wanted to get home, including me. I did not want to hang around.
There was fear?
You could feel it. As soon as you got out onto the street, the roads were blocked. I was glad I wasn't in a car. You could not move because everyone was leaving very quickly. and I just got along the pavement there. And
what were you told when people were told to clear Canary Wharf? They were told to evacuate. Presumably you already knew that the Twin Towers had been hit.
Yeah, we'd been watching, hearing it on the news,
Right.
and you're trying to take that down, and then comes the news, right, it's time to get out, and you think, well, yeah, this is a target
You
here,
think
it's
somebody
coming a
knows
little bit
something.
closer, and then you feel very vulnerable, and you know, and it's nothing like the fear that's been going on out there, but it was scary.
So you
just
can
wanted
understand that kind of...
Yeah,
'Cause
you know, and I wanted to get home and put my arms around my children, and then you think, you know, it's
Robert,
it hasn't happened for people
So I think
out
that
there.
the first thing we have to do now is just comfort those in need. Actually, everyone in America, getting all together as a team and working together to, you know, solve this situation. But first, we need the comfort and the love, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I run a pub in EC1, not anywhere near the city, but we found yesterday we had people coming in to watch it on the TV. Oh, yeah. And one young American guy, and his parents, his mother, as he said, lived in downtown, and his brother was supposedly to be at work in the Twin Towers. And he sat in the bar for 2 hours. I think if somebody had shook him and woke him up, he wouldn't have realised. I think he thought it was a movie that was on the telly.
Yeah.
And I think it's important for us. I sat there for quite a time with him yesterday. There's not a lot you can actually say. Because it was all unfolding in front of all of us.
That's what the disbelief is, and it's just like the movie.
You're saying you've got to comfort people. He's saying he was trying yesterday to an American in London. There's nothing there weren't any words he could find.
But that's the thing, you couldn't find the words and all that. But I mean, instead of thinking like who's done it and how can this happen, we first need to comfort those that are.
There were so many people there yesterday that even last night, late last night, an American guy came in again from New York himself. What's this on the TV? You know, it's just a late night movie. It's strange to think that we must now sit around and talk to each other more so and try to help each other.
The Americans are looking... What should we do now, he says. What the Americans want to do is find out who did it. And then what do they do? What should the Americans...
Well, I think it's time for an eye for an eye. This is equivalent to an act of war, and I think we need to behave accordingly.
What should you do?
Couldn't disagree
What does that mean?
That means hunt down, find out who did it, and wipe them out.
How?
There is a difficulty with this.
Use every resource possible. I think one of the great things about...
So let's imagine it's one of the what's generally termed by the rest one of the rogue nations that you're actually erecting Star Wars for, but which wouldn't have been relevant in this case, which is perhaps requires a fundamental rethink of defence policy. But let's imagine it is one of the so-called rogue states. Let's imagine it's Iran. What do? Do you risk more American lives in Iran?
Possibly.
Ah, possibly. So hang on, a minute ago you were very clear, an eye for an eye, take revenge.
Well, I'm not saying so much...
taking revenge could cost more lives. American lives. American lives.
You need to find a way to end this. You can't sit passively by and wait for the courts to determine the future.
I personally, tragically, have had a close encounter with terrorism. My son was kidnapped and murdered in Israel in 1994. And I know that one's first instinct, the first hours after the thing like this happens, you do feel you want to take a machine gun and kill everybody who's possibly on the side of the enemy. But unfortunately, if we all get dragged into doing things like this, the whole of civilization has no hope. We can't carry on our lives. We lose our souls. We've done what they want us to do if we get drawn into doing something like this in our lives. So it's a terrible thing to say, but revenge has to be served up cold. One has to take a step back and think...
Oh, so you are in favour of revenge?
Oh, but not a violent revenge. A revenge that I can look in the mirror afterwards and live with and know that I've not lost my soul. It's a reaction that one has to think about very, very carefully what one is going to do with one's life from that moment
You're
then
stooping
on.
to their level, she's saying.
I look at this as an act of war.
Yeah. Well, they want to drag you into this. Yes, it is an act of war, and in a war, one has to make a strategy to think of what one can do to prevent future things. It's not a question of revenge. Somebody's killed me, I've got to kill somebody back. It's, I have to prevent these things happening in the future.
I agree with the gentleman there. I believe that this was indeed an act of war, but I also believe we not only need to get the people directly responsible. I believe that there's nations that are funding these terrorist groups, and I believe that it's time that America makes a stand.
Yeah.
And a very drastic stand. And if it takes American lives, I believe Americans are willing to
Governments, the American government has to make a decision of what to do. But individual people who have been hurt, like I've been hurt on a personal level, who've lost their personal first-degree relative. I've lost my son. It's like having a limb ripped off, and you have to live with this for the rest of your life. Yes. But you have to find some way of changing your life and doing something with your life which gives it a purpose afterwards. Otherwise, they have won. And I created a website in my son's memory. I put his poetry. He was a peace activist. I put his poetry up so that people all over the world can read it and read what he believed, and so that although his body is dead, his spirit can live on, and the things that he believed, the peace that he believed that can be, can remain. And I hope that it will give some comfort to some of the people around the world who today are suffering like I have.
In war, people lose sons and daughters in the name of freedom, and that's what this is about, the U.S. getting back our freedom.
I mean, I believe that that there's a lot of Americans right now that are really upset, and I believe our government concurs that there needs to be a very large retaliatory action.
Retaliatory action.
Well, democratic societies throughout the world have to stick together. They just have to stick together, and there are certain factions, there must be, throughout the world that are funding these kind of terrorists in wherever you name it, this country, America, other countries, and these people have to be rooted out. We can't, we have to sit down and we have to find out who these people are before we take any action, but action must be taken. It has to be taken.
What kind of action?
You can't let people get away with these kind of things.
What kind of action?
In history. Well, I'm not going to say, but there has to, you know, that's for the politicians.
You've got to say, this is called living in a
Well,
democracy and
this-
expressing
well, I
your
agree with
point of
this
view.
gentleman, I agree with
Our
this gentleman.
politicians want to know what you think, because they want to do what you want them to do.
You know, the cliche is it's an act of war what happened. You know, you can't do these kind of things because they're lunatics.
Deborah?
I would really like to say something more. This is not to diminish in any way the intensity and the scope of what has happened, but vengeance only wreaks more vengeance. Violence only begets more violence.
I agree with you, it does in a way, but how do you go about...
Well, one of the things that I think needs to happen is that, first of all, we have to take a very long view. On the one hand, we also have to be ready to act immediately in terms of finding out all the information we can.
Correct.
But we have to find a way to speak truth to power. That's the important thing. And from
What
there...
does that mean, Deborah?
Well, what I mean by that is that, let's say someone has affected you in a very negative way. They've hurt your feelings tremendously, putting on a very personal level now. Hurt your feelings tremendously. And now you have a choice. You're all of a sudden
They've blown up
in
the
a
Twin
position...
Towers and killed thousands of people. They've really hurt some people, Deborah. How do you talk the truth to them? How do you talk the truth to them? They don't even have the courage to look you in the eye. We don't even know who they are. So how do you talk truth to them? But they do. Listen, it's interesting, isn't it? They're not attacking battleships. They're not attacking army bases. They're not attacking soldiers. They're hijacking civilian planes, and they're deliberately targeting civilian targets. Now, how do you talk to people like that?
Robert,
but you don't do it.
There are many steps that have to be taken. There are many steps that have to be taken. The United States is they are poised. They are on the world stage right now. Everyone is looking to see what will happen. I have a question. Is President Bush the kind of man, is he the kind of leader that can actually bring the sort of resources of creativity to this sort of stage?
What kind of... Deborah, this is the second time I don't know what you're talking. What do these resources of creativity mean? Do you mean he should go there and say, I give forgiveness?
No, it means addressing.
What I'm saying is that there are people in the United States and also in the world community who have a tremendous amount of knowledge and understanding, who need to be brought in, who need to be part of an advisory team, whether that's through the United Nations or whether it's through, all the different governmental agencies.
And part of the problem here is that these people have really miscalculated the character of the United States. I mean, we're not talking about Chamberlain going off to negotiate with Hitler. I mean, Hitler you can negotiate with. And look what happened in World War II. Pearl Harbor changed an isolationist United States, and how did we solve this problem? We defeated totally and completely the Axis powers. And a solution much like this is probably what the United States is going to do.
There's a difference now in the character of the actors involved.
We don't know whether or not.
Unlike
We don't know whether or not.
or like
That's a
there is
problem.
not a specific target to attack.
The
underlying thing that one needs to do in order to deal with these kinds of situations is to address the political situations and contexts that creates a climate in which terrorism can arise. That means addressing means addressing the Middle East process, peace process, energizing it again. One of the things the Bush administration, I think, can take the blame for is, in a sense, the disengagement that it followed as policy after it came into office. There was a clear effort to be not Clinton, and in the process of that, it moved back.
So what should America do?
In the long term,
we have a problem, don't we? Bush has to make a decision.
Bush
the leader of the free world has had to scurry around his country like a scared rabbit because he didn't know what was going on.
If it's an eye for an eye, he'll do what Clinton did. In the aftermath of the Sudan bombings, which is bomb Afghanistan and Sudan, and in the end bomb an innocent factory in which the U.S. actually had to pay compensation for, and did nothing in effect of actually hitting bin Laden and his associates.
Well, it's as
this one said, there's an immediate knee-jerk need to respond. In some kind of and it's not the kind of thing that will bring about
you two are really, you're not living in this world of today. You're not living in this world. I mean, I know, only because, I listen to you, so just listen to what I have to say. Only because we're talking about who's responsible, and I think you got to look at our security system. We got to look at our security system. We allowed ourselves as Americans to be vulnerable to the outside world. Yeah, you can't get into America from the outside to hurt us, but if you're inside America, you can do as much damage.
So what does America do?
Oh, we're talking total elimination. Just like these two gentlemen here, total elimination. For the simple fact that when you look on the news and you see little kids in other countries waving their flags because another country cheering like it's a football game, like they've won. Therefore,
hang on, please, Christina. Deborah, hang on a moment, Christina.
If it's total annihilation, it makes us no better than the
Well,
terrorists who attack the country.
sometimes
There are millions of innocent men. Well, there are millions of
anything since World War II.
Come on.
There are millions of innocent women and children, just like there have been in New York yesterday, and in Washington, in Pittsburgh, in Boston, who are the victims of terrorism. It doesn't make it right to inflict the same kind of atrocity on the many millions of innocent women and victims and children in Iran and Iraq. And there is no difference. I'm sorry. You target.
One at a time. Please, my love, please, one at a time. No, come on. One at a time.
I understand that, but we didn't start the war.
But it's not the point. The
But
end
we will
doesn't justify the means. I understand the need for some kind of action, but decisions made, and Robert, you were saying that Bush is like a scared rabbit running around.
Well, he looked like it yesterday.
No, and I agree with you.
No, let me be clear about that.
Yeah.
I am a very, very pro-American, but that's the leader of the free world. And I didn't like sitting, watching my television, seeing the leader of my free world scurrying around his country, afraid of what might come out of the sky. Because I expect that man to be in charge. I expect him to make decisions that are for all of our safety.
I know, and I'm concerned he's out of his
yesterday he wasn't.
And he wasn't.
What do you think's going to happen?
But wait a minute, decisions made.
Us to do nothing? Would you like us to do nothing and go to negotiating tables and sit down with these people?
No, but I'm not saying that
and then what about the other countries?
Let me get somebody else in.
I think, first of all, here we're dealing with completely irrational people, and once someone decides to take over a plane and take their own lives, that is completely irrational, and I think
by definition.
By definition, exactly. Right?
Sorry.
I think
they might be calculating, but it's not a rational thing to do.
One of the problems in terms of addressing terrorism globally is the adjective attached in front of it says this is mindless. This is not mindless. This is cold. This is calculated. It's rational, and it's linked to a political agenda.
That's why this is an act of war.
But I think what happened yesterday was shocking and devastating, and I think it highlighted that really someone said our complete vulnerability to these people.
All of our vulnerability.
All of our vulnerability. And I think It's become
so easy.
what's got...
It's so easy.
Well, exactly.
You can have the most powerful nation in the world with the greatest army and the missile defence systems and all the rest of it, and the devastation that was wreaked on it yesterday by about 3 or 4 men, half a dozen probably.
But I think now it's an issue of security. And there's no doubt that this is what happened, and we need to move on from that. And how do we do that? I think we need to.
How do you move on?
We need to get all our intelligence. We need to get together, and we need to act because we need to assure the populations of America of all these all the Western civilizations, and we need to find out these people. And I think there's an important distinction between violence and a targeted response against the people involved. For the sake of
at the same time, I mean, we can see the tragic effects of what happened yesterday. I think it's very important that governments around the world are able to keep a cool head and think about what they want to do.
But we need to take action.
We may well need to take action, but it may take many years to solve this problem.
So what do you do first?
You need to gather information. You can't just go bombing countries, regardless. They may have terrorist connections, but you need to gather your intelligence first. It's hard, but gather your intelligence and then try and find out the root of the problem.
Let me be perfectly clear. When we talk about bombing countries, first of all, we need to find out who exactly did it. Now, it could have well been an American group, and if it was an American group, they will be dealt with, believe me, quick, fast, and in a hurry. Now, if it's someone outside of America, in which we don't want this to happen again, not only to America, but to England and to other countries, then we need to go bomb them.
Tom? Tom?
You know, we know a lot about this Osama bin Laden. We know that he did do our 2 embassies in East Africa. He attacked the same World Trade Center in 1993. If you look at the records of that trial, we know about money transfers from Afghanistan to his people in America. We have letters, we have emails, we have telephone calls. We know a lot about this guy. He's clearly a terrorist.
You're implying that he's responsible?
I don't know if he did this one, but he's clearly a terrorist who's killed Americans, and we have let him hide in Kabul because they say he's a fellow Muslim and we can't turn him over. They're holding a murderer, and I think someone in that country better rethink their policy. There's a creative approach. Why don't you get your friends in Kabul to do something?
Nobody, I mean, the point you're making is whatever the views of the Muslim, the Taliban in Afghanistan, there is no justification for them harbouring somebody who may have done the kind of things we saw yesterday in America. What if they say, sorry, but, that's our traditional form of hospitality, which has been their line so far, and we are not going to change. What do you do? What does America do? How does
Tony
America
Blair
respond?
said yesterday, as Bush said yesterday, as everyone else said yesterday, then they're the enemy. If you're holding murderers who are attacking our people and protecting them, then you're the enemy.
So we've defined the enemy. What do we now do with the enemy?
We have a lot of power.
Oh, we know that. We have, Tom, you had a lot of power. It didn't stop your capital city and the major city in the world.
Because we didn't use it. We know the man's in Kabul.
You couldn't have used it yesterday.
You criticized the Clinton raid on Afghanistan, but what he hit were training camps run by bin Laden. Now, Clinton had a big problem in his presidency at that time, and he couldn't follow up on it. But we know where those guys are. If the Taliban wants to hide him, the Taliban is going to have to pay.
I mean, someone said earlier about this is kind of declaration of war. We don't at this stage actually know who it is who has declared war against the United States.
It is a declaration of war.
I think it is, but we need to identify who the enemy is. And then if it's an international issue that we're dealing with rogue states and supporting them, then it has to be the international community response. If it's a new combination of terrorist groups...
Let's deal with that first. Let's do the rogue state.
No, let's just have the 2 options, because it may also be a rogue combination of terrorist groups, which may not have worked in that combination before. That has to be collectively a response. And then we have to be actually face up to the consequences. If you're facing war, then you've got to respond, and that may cost you lives.
So what do we do? Let's imagine then it is a rogue state, or more likely, as you suggest, the second option, it is probably a rogue state in cahoots with some cohort of terrorist groups. What do you do? Let's imagine we identify very clearly, the evidence is overwhelming, no argument, it's this particular rogue state and that group of terrorists. What do we do?
Then you have to take action.
I know that, but what kind of action might be? Actually, OK, taking action is the easy word. We go to the United Nations and get a resolution condemning them. That's action. Is that what you mean?
No, 2 things which you need to do. You do take real action on the ground, but you have
What
to
does
take
real action on the ground mean?
What
Deborah is talking about real action.
Hold on. You have to take it within the rule of law.
other ideas,
If
by
it's
the
a
way.
terrorist group that is operating within another country, then that is unacceptable, and that may mean military action on
But they've
behalf
been
of
doing
a
it
number
for
of
years.
states.
They've been doing it for years.
But we have what
But they
also has,
didn't
and the
do it.
point was made earlier, that aid wasn't done, and also there have been some situations which allowed that to be created. Why,
I mean, the
why do we
Americans, for a start, the
Hold on.
Americans have been raising money for the IRA and Sinn Féin for years anyway.
Why has this happened, that we suddenly have this new form of international terrorism? It's because it shifted away from the nation-states operating on that way, and nation-states fighting wars with each other. And by the way, you couldn't negotiate with Hitler. And as we've seen, you couldn't.
Exactly. No, you did. It failed.
It failed.
Yeah.
So you sometimes have to say, no, you can't. But
he
you've
was a better
got different
negotiating
change
partner
of
than these
picture. It's no
guys.
longer the kind of nation-states which are fighting with each other. It's those very strong interest groups. And then we have to face up that you can't have it both ways.
So what's
Irrational action doesn't.
The young people are the
justify
ones who are going to have to do whatever has to be done. What should we be doing?
Back in the early to mid-80s, the Americans actually sent in an elite team to get the ringleaders. It is still used in the military, but instead of being just as bad as a terrorist, you're actually putting them through your correct justice system. A total annihilation could leave someone with a guilty conscience of accidentally bombing someone who turns out to be guilty.
Yeah. The response, which is similar in any way to what's happened, puts us practically on the same level. If millions or hundreds of thousands of innocent people are going to suffer as a result of retaliation, it's a bitter pill to have to swallow, and I don't think it can be justified.
Let us imagine, we know it was Saddam Hussein. Let's imagine, we don't. I'm just presenting a scenario, and we had overwhelming evidence. And this was his revenge. He's used other people, obviously. He's sponsored, helped other people, trained them, given them passports, facilities, whatever. And this, in his eyes, is a response to the bombing that is actually currently going on now in his country by American and British planes who are bombing, enforcing the no-fly zone there. And this is his response. He's saying, well, they're bombing my country. I'm now going to bomb them. I'm going to bomb them more severely. We know that. What do we now then do? We say it's a bitter. You say it's a bitter pill to swallow.
Finish the
We leave it alone.
Really? It's insoluble. It really is insoluble.
That's insoluble.
Well, in the sense that you can never prevent what has happened happening again, because there's no way that any security system will stop
and
it.
if the people who did this know we are not going to respond in any way, you think they might not be encouraged to carry on doing this kind of thing, because now they know there is no repercussions for them?
No, I don't think it's that way.
Oh, you think they'll stop too?
No, I don't.
With
But
actions?
I think if there's going to be a solution, it's got to be a very large political solution where countries do not sell arms to other countries, do not support one
So
nation
you're calling for a
against
total
another.
re-evaluation of, if you like, Western foreign policy? Not selling arms to anybody, rogue states, not tolerating...
Not supporting one against the other.
What happened yesterday is catastrophic enough.
Not
you know, this
enforced.
could result into something. You see, with actions comes consequence. With actions comes consequence. And what this gentleman said down the front, Mark, with all due respect, he said that it was orchestrated and it was coldly done.
Cold and calculated.
Cold and
rational.
calculated. And but they weren't the people who organise all this. They're not the people flying the planes. They brainwash people to sit in those pilot seats and just say, right, you crash that plane into this building and you'll be a martyr, or this is madness. This is psychotic. These people should be locked up.
It's people in pursuit of a political cause. If you have somebody in your armed forces,
is that the way to go about it?
Who dies?
Is that the way to go about
in
it?
military action? You don't say they're crazy.
Is
you
that
say
the way
they
to go
died.
about it?
No, but it comes back to
There's
Robert's
any
question
political
about what the
party that
nature
has
of the
a cause.
response is. What's the nature of the response? There are long-term structural causes of international terrorism. Those need to be addressed over the long time by the international community, as was commented over here. There are short-term measures you take in terms of you increase your security at airports in the U.S., which is appalling. You enhance your intelligence gathering with regard to these kinds of groups and operations. You identify who is actually responsible. You then take targeted measures responses. In the case of Iraq, you move towards smart sanctions that actually attack the regime rather than broad sanctions that
They've been
attack
doing
the
sanctions
population.
for ages.
No, but they've been attacking the population. They've left Saddam Hussein free to amass millions in terms of his
So we have
revenue.
economic sanctions.
But smart, targeted
smart.
at the
Well,
political
one assumes
elite.
they'd be doing smart
No,
targeted
they've been
sanctions
doing
now.
dumb,
Presumably the international community isn't totally
dumb,
stupid.
blunt sanctions for 10 years, and they've been
This
ineffective.
period, a long period of time. You know, what you're saying,
It's
it needs to be
but it
done
is a
over a long
long-term
period of
problem,
time.
and if you think
People
you
have
can
short
solve
memories.
it by George Bush bombing something in 2 days' time...
No, I'm not
you
asking for
are
that. I'm not
wrong.
asking for that. But it's not just... Why do you just mention George Bush? It's the whole of the world need to get together. Like the whole of democracy. Forget George Bush, right? It's Tony Blair, it's everybody. And politicians now, right, when they're asked questions on TV, they beat about the bush. It should
You
be
just
like a
did.
court.
You
No,
just did.
Listen, it should
That's
be
why I
like...
turned to you. We
it
need
should be
your
like in a
opinions.
court. It should be like in a court when the judge says to you, or the cross-examination says to you, were you there at that particular night in question? You've got to say yes or no. So all the different countries
Well,
throughout the
they could
world
take the
should
vow of
be asked
silence in
questions.
America.
They should be asked questions.
I mean, the
Do
tragedy
they condone it or
yesterday
not? And give an answer yes or
was
no.
a declaration war. It wasn't a declaration war against whoever perpetrated it. It's a declaration war, and it has to be made by all terrorist organisations, wherever they are. It has to be shown that terrorism will not lead to political gains. And I believe that the policy that Israel has been undertaking in the last years of assassinating known terrorists high up all over the world, this policy needs to be taken. I think it's been proven right in the events of the last 24 hours.
Following on from that, we talk about sanctioning Iraq. I think we're living in cuckoo land if we think that we can negotiate with a man like Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein is a ruthless dictator, and I think the fundamental problem is the ideologies. This is what we're dealing with here.
You Americans, you all talked earlier on about how vulnerable you feel, how angry you are, how frustrated, you can't get in touch, you know? This has brought your country to a standstill. No planes are flying from the whole of the world to America. Nothing's flying out of America. You can't get through to people. None of you can get through to anybody. Your president's all over the place, hole in the corner, having to hide away in case he's being attacked. Your country's brought to a standstill. With all your might and superiority, just a few people, a lot in the planning maybe, but few people have done this and caused this terrible loss of life and devastation. All right? And you say you're frustrated. You say you're angry. Now, Mark says if you take action, you are likely to get more of this. Is that what you want?
Yeah, I reckon the first thing we should do is we shouldn't actually name anyone for this. If we recall the Oklahoma bombing, what happened? We thought it was, I won't say anything, but we thought it was someone else, and yet it turned out to be an American. So at the moment, we're not allowed to say, we shouldn't say anything or name
Until you've got the facts.
whatsoever.
But when you've got the facts, and let's say it is a terrorist organisation, you don't think this is really, is it conceivable that this is an American far-right organisation doing this?
Well, if the person, for example, if we found out...
suppose
who
it
the
is
person
anything
was-
could happen in
No, if we
America.
find out who the person was, obviously, if we find out who the person was, we have the people. At the moment, obviously, we have a death penalty in America in some states. So obviously,
totally ineffective.
I believe in the death penalty. Yeah, they should get it. Especially
I
when
don't.
you're killing
I don't
civilians,
think. I don't-
especially civilians being killed.
Yes, I mean killing civilians, people that aren't involved on the political level. I mean, it's it's more. It's just a tragedy.
Are you aware that your country? Do you feel that you are at war? Do you feel that your country is at war?
I feel very much afraid that we're going to be at war. But I would I've been waiting for years for something like this to happen. There's so many illegal sales of planes and war. I mean, all of this stuff, it's a huge moneymaker. And that's what our country, that's the underpinnings of America, is making as much money as possible.
But we don't know who to blame. That's the thing.
But they also targeted the World Trade Center. I mean, come on, that is the symbol of capitalism. They right there made a statement, a large statement, unfortunately, about our economic system,
Our
about
political system.
Yeah, exactly.
They
our
wanted to take
political
out.
system.
But do you feel vulnerable?
Oh, yes.
yes.
I mean, you would never imagine, I would never imagine that this would actually happen. I mean,
No,
you know, it's...
Saying in Piccadilly.
And does that mean people in America will change the way they live?
Oh,
yes.
They will change the way that they think about their own country. They will think twice about thinking of it as some invincible superpower, you know?
Smugness is going out the window. I mean, I think that, you know, I'm an avid newspaper reader, and I follow the news, and I always read about England, other, you know, every place where this goes on, and
it's welcome to the rest of the world.
Well, it really is, frankly, and I feel that, you know, it's just.
Tom?
I don't ever think America was invincible. We've been attacked before. The British burned down our White House in 1812.
Well, but that was the last time. That was the last time.
We've been attacked before.
Now, look, you know,
we fought back.
I wondered when it would be our turn. Because we get dragged into everything, don't we? Wherever there's something going on rotten in the world, they turn around and say, oh, well, the British did it. Usually in 1305 or something. This is a bit more recent, we know.
Well, but I don't feel America was invincible. We've been attacked before, and we fight back. And I do feel that I have the feeling our country's at war.
Do you feel more vulnerable today than you did yesterday?
Oh, yes. Well, I think we were vulnerable yesterday. I felt we were vulnerable.
Gary, you said, oh, yes?
Oh, yes. I mean, on both as a nation and as an individual. I was sitting in this pub in Piccadilly, and gee, I was asking, have they shut down Heathrow and Gatwick? I mean, my gosh, I'm just a few blocks away from Big Ben. There's another great symbol of Western democracy right there, you know, and this is not just an attack on the United States and its foreign policy, but it's on all freedom-loving countries.
Andrew?
Yeah, I mean, it is about freedom, but with freedom, there comes a price, and the price is vulnerability. I don't say it should be.
Why does there come a price with freedom?
Some people don't like it.
Why should there be a price? We don't pay. We don't pay a price in this country. Neither do you. Freedom is something every human being is entitled to.
That's correct.
It's a natural right. Some of the philosophers used to tell us it's a human right, according to the United Nations conventions and indeed the European conventions. Hang on. Why does this thing called freedom, which is important to all of us, have to have a price?
Because it's not so important to some people, and it's that mindset. And I'm not about to get into the insanity of their irrational mindset, but this is what was on the mind of those people who either planned this situation or got on those planes.
It's going to change us all, isn't it, Giselle? It's going to change us all. What's happened here. Already now, you and I and everybody here and everyone watching is going to be subject to more intrusive, quite properly, but more intrusive, inconvenient security measures.
Well, I think proper security, and I think, you know, in some of the airports it can be tightened up, and that's right and proper. But I think the real reason why I think things will change, the real reason why things will change is this is all about power. This attack in the United States was a game of power on the international scene, and it's how that is played out, which I don't think will be in terms of rogue nations. I think it will be in terms of rogue organizations, and it will need a collective response. Yes. And I think that's why Britain and the United States and all the European countries have to really share intelligence and share that response and take collective responsibility for that response.
Leaving that to one side, which of course you can't, because that's very important, but the question I was getting at, or the thing I was getting at, I suppose, is after 2 or 3 days, when governments go ahead planning their things, leaving it there, is life just going to carry on as normal, or has life changed fundamentally for all of us?
Yes.
Is our economy going to be affected, for example?
Well, I think in terms of the economy, one of the things which hasn't been mentioned yet is the individuals who died in those explosions in New York. Probably some of our best brains in terms of economic and the financial markets. The costs of that will be significant. It will take quite a bit of time to get over that. But I think if we all go back and check what is normal security, what we mustn't do is, and remember, we watched this on the television screens, which is also the kind of oxygen of publicity for the terrorists. It was almost that makes it even more that impact. We've got to be cautious. We've got to be careful.
They must be taking great delight and be jubilant at the pictures that are being shown all across the world. Like some of them were in the Middle East shooting the guns in there.
They couldn't have known how bad it was. No real Muslim would be cheering about mass death.
And just a moment, please. Sorry. How's it going to affect us? How's it going to affect us all economically, culturally?
Picking up on Nonetheless' comment, economically, it's going to be the long-term consequences are potentially devastating. I mean, in terms of the sheer loss of human resources and social capital, possibly 10,000 people going who are, in terms of the Pentagon, high military personnel. In terms
what about
of
us?
the World
How's it
Trade
going to affect us?
You'll have long-term spin-off in terms of the global economy. We're on the verge of a global recession. In terms of the way the psyche of the market plays, this is going to impact it. Once you think of the downturn in terms of tourism,
well, the stock exchange was actually closed yesterday because
but the ripple effect. You think of the impact that foot and mouth had on this country in terms of tourism. Think of what's going to happen in terms of the United States in terms of global travel. The thing about this is that the U.S., in terms of its sense of vulnerability, people didn't feel it individually. I didn't. I just traveled out of Logan last week. But now people are going to think about it. And there's 10,000 people. When you have their families of 5 or 6, you magnify that outwards.
If and when we do, America catch these groups, if they're small groups in your country, what will happen to them? Human rights will step in and they will want all their legal. And then
quite properly.
Of course, naturally.
No, I'm serious. I'm not being ironic. Of course, we have to deal with them by the due process of law, because that's the kind of people we are, isn't it? Right. Ian, that's right. Can life ever kind of be picked up and move on again, do you think?
As a healthcare professional, I want to prevent these kind of things happening. And lots of people have talked about aggression, about violence. This has been an absolutely astounding 24 hours because it shocked us to our very roots. But there have been other things like Rwanda, like Yugoslavia. There is mayhem throughout our world. And our job is to try and prevent disease and to prevent injury. And the best way is to find out the roots, to deal with madmen and mad women, but also to find out the roots, to deal with the just causes of, let's say, the Palestinians and the Israelis.
You have to identify the causes and deal with them.
And deal with injustice throughout the world.
It's a big job, that, isn't it, dealing with injustice throughout the world, but it should be there properly at the top of our agenda, because that's what we all believe in. Make no mistake about this, it's an attack on the West, an attack on all of us who live in democracies and believe in the principles of tolerance and freedom. And we have to do, as some people here have said this morning, as the Prime Minister said yesterday, we have to make sure we are all on our guard, and we have to stand shoulder to shoulder with the United States. Take care of yourselves. Well, after all that, we're making a programme about benefit cheats. So, if you've ever cheated the system, call now. 08 705 100 771. Did you cheat to feed your children? Were you working and claiming benefits? Are you on benefit and would never, ever consider cheating? What do you think of benefit cheats? Call us now.